Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where we sit down with the people who give shape, texture, and voice to life on the North Fork of Long Island. Some are rooted here by generations, others arrived by chance or choice, but all carry with them a piece of the story. We talk about what's changing, what's worth holding on to, and the currents of history, both quiet and loud, that run through this place. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi. For episode 134, we sit down with Anthony and Lisa Sannino of Sannino Vineyard to hear the story behind their journey to the North Fork and the creation of their family-run winery and inn. From their early impressions of the East End to planting vines, opening a bed and breakfast, and raising 4 children on the vineyard, the Sanninos reflect on how their Italian heritage, love of wine, and passion for hospitality have shaped their path. We talk about Anthony's shift from construction and architecture to designing a sustainable tasting room, Lisa's dream of hosting guests, and how they've made education and connection a key part of their mission. It's a conversation about taking chances, working side by side, and building a meaningful life through wine, community, and family. So I hope you enjoy episode 134 with Lisa and Anthony Sannino. This episode was recorded May 7th, 2025. Thank you so much for coming on to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. It's really great to have both of you on today.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Definitely. So just in the beginning, I'd like to start off, if you can give us a little bit about your family background with your Italian heritage and that early experience, and even that linking that with the vineyard today.
So both my parents were actually born in Italy. So as a child visiting, Dad was actually from a city life. Mom was from the island of Ischia, both in the Campania region of Italy, so southern Italy. But mom grew up on an island where they actually grew their own food, and there were lots of vineyards everywhere. So at the age of 13, I experienced Mom's uncle and spent a month with him going through vineyards and actually tasting wine for lunch. So
Wow.
I think I was early on exposed to wine and that entire lifestyle. So having that Italian background where food, wine is actually food on the table. It's just normal to have wine for lunch and for dinner and all of that. Dad was a waiter when he came to the U.S. And so again, food and wine was in my household, and we were always exposed to it. So later on in life, once we got into this wine thing, it was just natural for us.
Okay. When did they come over, and did they made their way out to Suffolk County?
Yeah, so they began as most of the Italian immigrants. They landed in Brooklyn, so their first home was in Brooklyn. Second home was in Queens. I was really young when we left Queens and came out to Huntington area. We grew up in Dix Hills, which was completely farmland when we were kids. So actually reminds us of when we finally moved out to the North Fork and brought us back to what we remembered, before homes took over all the farmland.
And they came in the late 50s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you wanted to talk about your side
So,
of the family.
Yeah, my dad was born here, but he was Italian, but my mom came from Italy as well when she was 19 with her family.
Okay.
Same
Also,
year, though, around
yeah,
the same
a different
time.
region, but also southern.
Okay.
Italy, Basilicata is the region.
Yes. And then moving forward, when did you first discover the North Fork?
So
Early on.
yeah, I'm trying to think that.
Like what year
I think my parents took us out to Shelter Island in like 1990 maybe. And I remember thinking, who lives out here, and never really thought about it because we were from, like Anthony said, Western Suffolk County, Dix Hills, Huntington area. So we always traveled west.
Mm-hmm.
not too much east.
But in our second home, when we finally moved to
Manorville in 98.
98, yeah.
Yep.
We were only 30 minutes from Cutchogue, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's when we started to explore the North Fork.
Yeah, that's when I started buying grapes on the North Fork to make wine. I was a home winemaker. So that actually began just before we got married. I was making wine at home and getting grapes that were delivered to New York from California in boxes. And I learned with an Italian, old school Italian winemaker. And I guess that evolved into getting fresh grapes on the North Fork. Once we discovered the North Fork, I was able to meet winemakers and growers out here. And we lived in Manorville, so that commute was really short. It was only 25, 30 minutes to come out here. And we also
planted a small vineyard as well in Manorville.
Yeah, and that's when we found out that prominent wine regions are prominent because of very specific growing conditions.
And microclimates.
Or the French would call it the terroir.
Yes.
So obviously,
was not conducive for that.
No.
They're in the Pine Barrens. We realized that.
Yeah, the Pine Barren region has this cold air settle in, early frost, late frost. It was really difficult. But only 30 minutes from there is where we are now, and just able to grow what we can grow.
Mm-hmm. And even looking at were you getting to know some of the other winemakers that were out here at that time? And
yeah, so we drove out here. We would visit tasting rooms, taste wine, and get to know people. I remember being able to source grapes. I think it was Ray Blum was the first who sold grapes to us,
from
which
Peconic
was
Bay.
Yeah, Peconic Bay Winery. I had volunteered to help him, but I was also a general contractor early on. And I remember doing some work. He had me cutting racks for barrels and stacking barrels because I had the skill to do the woodworking stuff, but spent a lot of time with him. And then he was selling me grapes, which made it a lot easier to make wine and not have to wait for these 50-degree berries to warm up before you could ferment them, because they were harvested the day I needed them. But once we started meeting some of the locals and winemakers and developing those relationships is what kind of led us into really looking for property.
Mm-hmm. But even with your background in construction and architecture, you mentioned you were able to work on whether it was the barrels or other things. Do you see that as connecting the planting vines and designing for out here? Did that connect the two worlds together, kind of?
Yeah, so I can explain that pretty well because my background in construction was construction engineering with an emphasis on architecture. So I love designing and building. So the art form of creating wine is where I come from. It's an extremely creative field, taking grapes, and I try to create analogies for my visitors. We do a lot of tours, and the greatest analogy is like Merlot is grown everywhere in the world, practically everywhere, but yet every Merlot is different. And it's not just the unique microclimate or terroir where the grapes are grown, but it's also the influence of the winemaker and what is the winemaker's take on it. So that's the creative part of it. And when I was building, it was design, build. Now I design and create wine.
Yes. And then you mentioned from Manorville, from home winemaking, you eventually purchased a 5-acre vineyard in Cutchogue. What gave you that confidence to take that leap?
So we should go back to Greenport, right?
Yeah, Harold Watts. He actually lives in Greenport, and he had his winery. Yeah, Turnhaven Cellars.
Turnhaven Cellars was the last winery before France, is what he had on his sign. I had purchased, as a home winemaker, I was looking for used equipment. So in developing relationships with the local winemakers, Harold had responded to one of my emails and said he had a crusher destemmer. And I had purchased it from him, brought it back to Manorville. And then I think it was like a year later.
It was a boat rope.
Yeah, he had given me a local boat rope to tie it into my truck, but I wanted to return the rope. So a year later is when I found out he was selling his vineyard, which was actually in Cutchogue. His winery was here in Greenport, but it was funny because I went to Preston's to buy him a brand new boat rope. I didn't have the original one that he gave me. But then we struck up a conversation about his 5-acre parcel being available, and that he had subdivided it amongst other little parcels, and we were able to build a home on it, which was kind of key, because if we were going to make a lifestyle change, we would want to build in the vineyard and actually raise the kids on the vineyard.
Right. At that point, we had our 4th child, and I remember Anthony saying, "What do you think? Do you want to do this? Do you want to move out here?" And I said, "If we can build the house and have a bed and breakfast on the property, I'm in. Let's do it."
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, there was one thing, and then we designed that house, the current house we're in, for the B&B and for the wine experience that we were going to create.
That was even from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah, B&B started like 2 years after we built the home.
2009.
Yeah, with the intent of, designing it and building it for that future.
What did your families think that because they probably thought, well, you're making wine at home, but then all of a sudden to starting an actual vineyard out on the North Fork, even when they come out and visit.
Oh, they thought we were nuts. They thought we were nuts when we moved to Manorville, because we moved a half hour away from the whole family, both sides,
Yeah. From
so
Huntington
after
to
that, they
Manorville,
just figured we lost our mind.
Yeah.
Like you're
They're already
too far.
at the end.
we didn't really lose much family, but we lost our mind for sure. But yeah, growing grapes though at that level compared to Manorville was different. One of the growers that would sell us grapes actually helped me. I paid him as a consultant, and he would come out and say, "Hey, well, this is what you do at this point. This is what you do at that point." And he worked with us for like a year just to get us accustomed to growing 5 acres worth rather than this small planting we had in Manorville.
So just getting used to the larger scale had to have been an adjustment, and even just how was it that first year just planting the vines, and were there any hurdles or challenges?
Well, it was already an established vineyard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was helpful.
Okay,
We
yes.
planted back in 89. We actually had to remove vines to put the foundation.
And that was challenging.
And the first year we sold all of our grapes to Borghese.
Yeah, and that was actually successful because at the end of having our consultant teach us, how to maintain 5 acres worth of vines, we actually had an abundant crop, and we were able to sell it because we weren't set up for winemaking then. I don't even think, because of all the construction and developing the home and getting the kids acclimated to the new location, we didn't make any wine that year in 2006. So we were able to sell all of the grapes, and they were of good quality, which was really awesome. But it set us up for the following years.
Right. And that's when we developed a vine to wine program. We would teach people to make their own wine.
Yeah,
and go through the whole winemaking process, starting with the harvest.
Well, we should back up. We should back up a little bit, because we had this 5 acres, but we didn't have a license to sell wine, and we didn't have a facility really to produce and sell, or a tasting room. So yeah, that's when I think it was Lisa's creative mind saying, "Well, we like making wine on a home level, and a lot of people used to join us at home and come over and make wine." So we pitched an idea. And we actually had, I think Newsday came out and wrote an article, because we were going to be home winemakers, educating people on how to do it. And I think our first year we had over 100 takers on the program. So pretty much all of the grapes went to this program, and everybody made their own custom barrel of wine in the Vine to Wine program.
Wow.
So that was the launch of Sannino Vineyard.
Right. And then Ray Blum had passed away. And his wife had some equipment that she was selling that was on Peconic Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And, we approached her like, we need space. And they weren't really doing much with the tasting room that they had. So we rented space from her.
In order to run the
program so that we could continue. And with that, she had asked me, would you be interested in running the tasting room? And I had never done that before, but I was open to it. Sure, I'll try it.
Yeah, we were selling
I like
glazed
wine. How
Right.
bad could it be?
Right.
So I opened up the barn door and put a flag out, and
we were selling their wine because they were a commercial winery, but we were still a Vine to Wine membership program. We were a school educating people.
Yeah.
But I think once we realized we were giving wine away to entice people to join the program, that wasn't a really smart business model because we gave away too much wine to get them interested. And I think that's when we finally got our license.
we did. We got the license.
Okay.
Yeah. And we became...
And then we sold out of all of Ackerley Pond wine, and that's when we had our
we spent
brand.
10 years in Peconic developing the Sannino Vineyard brand, but all along carrying through with our core business model, which was the wine education.
Yes. In 2015, we bought the land that was adjacent to ours, right?
Yeah, in Cutchogue, the home property. Yeah. And started designing our new future home for Sannino Vineyard.
Yeah, so 2015, we bought the land. 2018, we got the permits to build. And in 19, we opened our new facility
Okay.
in Cutchogue.
But before that, you were running the business out of that historic barn.
In Peconic Lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anything that really stood out from those 10 years in that chapter?
We learned a lot.
Yeah, we did. We learned a lot. We learned, the hospitality business was pretty neat. People are generally happy to come out and taste wine. So
It was very different, though. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but yet business has changed a lot since then. I felt like back then, by Columbus Day,
it got quiet.
after that, it was quiet. Like, we could shut the doors.
Yeah.
And now, it's a year-round business. I mean, a little bit quieter in the winter, but you still have business.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a lot more visitors in the off-season now.
Absolutely.
Than way back when.
And in terms of getting your first initial bottles out, and because you mentioned you were basically giving away to other wines at first, but then getting people to try your wines first and reaching out to I know other winemakers have talked about getting restaurants to carry it and other things like that. How was that process with getting people, whether local in the community or people that come out here to come to your winery?
The marketing of it, I guess fortunately for us, we never relied on the wholesale or tried to get into a lot of restaurants or wine shops. So most of our sales are direct to consumer, and a lot of
wine
it
club.
and wine club. And I think after the Vine to Wine program, which was our version of a wine club, we evolved into a wine shipment club. So we've got a huge loyal base of consumers that look for our product, and they actually look for the creativity and the changes from year to year. They really don't look for the cookie cutter type wine where every year it's the same. What's Sannino going to do this year type of thing. We do have a couple of staples, so they look for certain wines we keep true to its core and what it's been. But I think our consumer are pretty loyal, and they keep coming back for the next experience or the next wine.
And yet, I mean, you can come in on any given day and ask people, this is your first time here, and this is the first time
Yeah, we've had
they've
so
walked
many
in, and
first
it's
timers.
like, wow. You feel like you've been around for 15 years. Everyone should know, but they don't. There's always new customers coming out.
Yeah, there's new visitors on the North
for
Fork
sure.
every day. Yes, no doubt.
And then also you mentioned building the new tasting room, which is a beautiful and architecturally unique. Can you talk about that vision behind the design?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I think you mentioned earlier, like, what did we learn from being in Peconic and that whole experience? As a winemaker, I learned what my needs would be if I ever built a facility. So once we started designing the new location, Lisa running the tasting room and with staff and all the needs that go with that aspect on the day-to-day operations, the retail, and how to really service customers properly, went into the design phase. And then as the winemaker, what do I really need in terms of, like, efficiency in producing wine, and where does my equipment go? How do I do this? So that's one aspect. So we designed and we built exactly what we wanted. The other part of it was the structure is extremely energy efficient. The foundation are ICFs, which are insulated concrete forms. Essentially, they're styrofoam forms instead of wood forms, and concrete got poured into it with a lot of structural metal that holds it together and keeps it strong. The entire floor system from the basement up is also concrete over styrofoam and heated with radiant heat. So we have tubing in it. So that's another really very efficient way to heat a building is through the cement floor. And then the superstructure, all the walls and the roof are SIP panels, structural insulated panels that are essentially 100% styrofoam that are wood clad. So it's styrofoam to styrofoam that joins together without any what we call thermal break. So when people think of typical framing, you have your 2x4 studs or 2x6 studs or roof members. There's none of that. Every one of those studs would be a thermal break, where with styrofoam there is no break. So the building actually maintains temperature. Like our winters are great in there, right?
Efficient.
We have the tiniest boiler that produces all of the hot water we need for wine production and domestic hot water. And then it also produces enough hot water to heat the concrete floor. And it's just very, very comfortable in the building. So those were the two aspects that we learned what we needed. We designed it, we built it, and then added that high energy efficiency element to it.
But also being mindful of a budget, because it is still a mom and pop operation.
Yeah.
There is no trust fund backing us up.
No.
So, we had to be mindful about
Yeah,
that
we did.
as well.
Well, we didn't finish the entire structure like with all the bells and whistles, and we're still adding things.
We're still
to
adding.
it over the years.
Literally, we opened, and 6 months later, everything got shut down with COVID. So that was interesting.
I guess if you ask what was one of our biggest challenges, probably that, because we opened the doors.
Yeah,
and,
just when the mortgage payment was due.
Yeah, the first mortgage payment was due right when we opened the doors, and then they shut us down a couple of months later. So that was challenging, for sure.
Yeah. And what about the bed and breakfast? How did you get that up and running?
So when I was working corporate, I was in human resources, and I was going for my MBA, and I sat down with my manager and doing a review, an annual review, and where do you see yourself in the company and all those good things. And of course they're paying for my degree, so I see myself here. But I was, once that was over, the review went well. And my boss, was also my friend. And I said, honestly, I see myself on a farm in a bed and breakfast. And I don't know where this farm is or how I'm going to get to this point. But that's like a dream. She gave me a book as a gift, and it says How to Own and Operate Your Own B&B.
That was after that meeting. She went out for your birthday or something.
Bought me a gift. I always kept the book. At some point I always had this vision of, this is what I'd love to do. And it's funny because all these years later, she's come to the winery to visit, and she's like, I've been following you. And I said, and I still have that book. So it's pretty funny. But, so that was always a thought. And then, of course, visiting Italy and going to agriturismos where you're on the farm and you're with the family and you're at the inn, and most of them, feeding you breakfast or dinner or whatever. And
but experiencing what that farmer life is.
Exactly.
In our case, it's a vineyard life on a farm, but we stayed at places where they just made cheese. And,
they had milk for cows, right?
Yeah.
You could just stay there.
Yeah, you're staying with them. You're
with
living
them.
their life, and you're really experiencing it. And I think that's what we get with the B&B, are a lot of visitors that, I guess if you're coming from West, like where we came from originally, it just doesn't exist, and it exists out here. So people just want to escape what they have in order to experience something different.
And I mean, I'm not sure if I know exactly, but I don't think there's any other vineyards on the North Fork that
have that
offer that.
There is actually one, and as on the builder side of, when I put my builder hat on, the original winery was Shin Estate Winery, which is now Rose Hill Winery. literally like a quarter mile from us. They're around the corner. I was building that for David Page and Barbara Shin when we were building our home, and their intent was actually to make it a B&B. So they had opened 1 year prior to us because we needed to finish their construction project before we finished ours.
To pay for ours.
Yeah, it helped pay for ours. That was great,
Yeah.
But they were our neighboring winery, actually. They were up and running.
And they're still there, up and running.
Yeah, still
under
up and
Rose
running.
Hill. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Rose Hill runs that. But I think that's the only true...
Only two.
Yeah, only two.
Bed and breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still unique. And then also I wanted to ask about with your family, and how have your 4 children, how did they get involved? Or did you get them involved with it? And
they've been involved from the beginning. I think they've been
involved since the beginning.
Actually, when Harold Watts had sold us that equipment, that first year we actually harvested in 2005 before we owned the vineyard. And we produced our first wine here in Greenport at Harold's building. And our first 2 girls, Marissa and Miranda, helped me wash the inside of the wine tanks because I used Harold's wine tanks then. Mm. So Marissa and Miranda were so young then. What were their ages? They were probably like 6 and 8 or 8 and 10.
Yeah. 7 or 8.
Had them inside the wine tank, washing the wine tanks.
But they also helped out when we were making wine in
back
Manorville,
at home.
you know.
As a home.
So they were always part of just being around wine. And, you know, so fast forward, Marissa goes off to college, to Johnson & Wales, studies business. Sommelier is her concentration. Miranda goes to Cornell for viticulture and enology.
Wow.
And our third one is our son. He went to SUNY Maritime, so he's actually a mariner now.
He's a mariner, but when he's home, like right now, he's in between work, and he'll come home and he's my other hand. So he's always helping out.
And then the little one, she's a junior up at Cornell as well, viticulture and enology.
Wow.
So they all, are still involved in some respect. Our second one actually moved to California. She graduated in 2020, had an internship with Gallo, and fell in love.
Gallo, the little Italian wine company.
Right,
Gallo.
family owned.
Yes.
And never came back. I mean, she's been back, but that's where she lives.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see them get older, but then still seeing that like they would be able to carry on
and continue. Yeah, I think they're excited to continue and bring it further than what we
have done
for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, because there's so many different aspects, like you were mentioning wholesale. You know, there's the bed and breakfast, there's wholesale, there's wine education, winemaking, viticulture, like all of it.
And
there's
the
so
wine
many
club,
different...
like developing the wine club and bringing that to another level. And we do wine dinners at different restaurants, so people are always interested in the next experience that we can offer them.
Definitely. And I had a question, Lisa, as someone running the inn and connecting personally with guests, how have you seen people respond to the full vineyard experience from the wine to the stay?
I mean, it's all been positive. They love it. And I think it's interesting because they romanticize it. They come out and they're like, oh, this is beautiful. It's exactly what I'd love to do. And I said, great.
You're living the dream.
You're living the dream. And I said, and, you know, you see that tractor, that costs X, and you see this piece, you know, they don't put all the pieces together, nor did I in the beginning. When he told me how much a used tractor was, I almost fell on the floor.
No, I told her I was buying my first tractor, and it was a Landini, and she had told all her friends that I was buying a Lamborghini.
It probably costs just as much.
Yeah, probably. Today it does, for sure.
But no, they love it. They love just coming out and opening up the balcony doors in the vineyard, and they can stroll to the winery.
Should I say what I normally say? When they say you're living the dream, I usually tell them that dreams and nightmares both happen at night. Depends on which way you look at that.
Yeah.
No, but it's beautiful. We love it out here. We love
it's all good
all
fun.
of it.
Yeah, definitely. And just looking back, what are you most proud of? Not just in terms of the business, but in the life you've built here.
Most proud of that we're still together. We've been together since 1985.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To have the same vision and to
and we
persevering.
still have goals. We still want to keep doing it and come up with ideas.
Yeah, but now my ideas are expanding to Italy to buy something over there.
Oh.
Not a vineyard,
Yes.
but some kind of accommodation and bring our wine club. Because we go to Italy often and they're always like, oh, we'd love to come with you. And I was like, I would love to show people Italy, but off the beaten path Italy.
Yes.
Not your usual Florence, Rome, Venice.
Yeah,
Definitely. And I think there's opportunity
See?
over there.
You want to be a part of
yeah. Not giving up what we have, but
Not giving it up, just expanding
No, just extending.
Absolutely. So we have
Something,
something to do in the winter months.
But we can actually show people how we created what we have by bringing them to the core or the roots of, our ideas.
Yes. Definitely.
And so
we're always
proud.
doing.
I think we're
growing.
proud of all of what we've done.
Yeah.
Like we set out to do something. We create ideas. We bring them to life, and that's been our mantra from the beginning.
Definitely, always trying everything.
Yeah.
Try it once, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't, we just move on to something new.
But also knowing to be persistent, because nothing is really successful when you try it once.
Right.
You've got to keep it going to
Yeah.
get people interested in it and move forward.
And even just you looking at the wineries today and just the wine region today, how have you seen the wine region develop even from when you first started?
To now,
Yeah, and like would you say it's gotten more exposure over the years?
it has. I'd like to. I mean, on my end, I'm also involved in agriculture here in Southold Town. I'm the chairman of the Ag Advisory Committee. So on that side, I'd like to see more of the town get behind it and people understand why it is that we grow grapes here. I may have mentioned it earlier that we have a very unique microclimate. It's very unique to grow grapes anywhere in the world, and they don't grow everywhere. They only grow where they can grow. So getting people to understand the agricultural part of it, that we grow the least amount of crop on the most amount of land. So when it comes to agriculture, if we can keep land in preservation through agriculture without building homes, we also mentioned we grew up in an area in Huntington that was all farmland when we were kids, and we watched all of the farmland disappear to the last crop, which are concrete foundations. And then developments came in, and we'd love to see this region remain more in agriculture. And not to say, we don't want to tell people don't visit and don't come here and plant your roots, but if it is in agriculture, it's just less opportunity for building homes.
Yes.
And more viable to the agriculture. And our industry is very successful. It does extremely well. So when people are looking to plant more grapes, I'm hoping that our locals and our local government can embrace that, because every time a winery wants to operate, that small wine facility is going to need 100 acres of grapes or 50 acres of grapes in order to sustain
to support it. Sure.
And we actually, and I'm not the only
jobs.
It does. It creates jobs, and I'm not the only one who believes also that in New York State we have the highest quality in terms of what we can grow variety wise, and what appeals to the market. So hopefully we can get more to embrace what it is our industry is doing here on the North Fork.
And I think also all the other businesses support each other. So if someone's coming out to stay at the B&B, they're going to, go to the local restaurant and go to the local shops and come out to Greenport Village and,
Yeah, it's a complete
support each
system.
other. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, when visitors come out, it's not a one-stop shop. It's,
Right.
The overnight people, for instance, at the B&B, we believe are the highest quality visitor. They spend the night. They also go out and do dinners, and they go to the local shops. A lot of people complain about the day trippers out here, and rightfully so. They come out, they spend a few hours, they clog up our roads, and then they go home. But the overnighter actually is like vested in this experience. They want to be here. So they are going to spend more money, and they are going to embrace what we have because they spend enough time here.
But we have had a few guests that came out, fell in love, and actually bought homes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And stayed.
Yeah.
And that's actually happened.
But even like you said, I think it is important to keep that open space with the agriculture, and whether, I mean, they were a lot of potato farms before, and then the wineries came in and preserved that space. So I think,
yeah,
because it easily could have.
The crops changed, like you mentioned. Potatoes were the staple and the bread and butter here, and that changed, right? So the markets move in the country or in the world where they get the crop. Currently, grapes do exceptionally well here. There are other crops, and what I like to see is that we embrace what does grow best. And I don't really care what the crop is, but if we can embrace the crops that do well, we know we can cover more land in agriculture rather than homes.
Right. Preserve more land. Absolutely.
Yeah. Preserving the land to agriculture is key. I mean, a lot of people say preserve land for open space, and open space becomes woodland. And essentially woodland's pretty, but it's not what the farmland offers.
And the climate is, like you said, good for that. I think someone mentioned that even the region can grow more old world style wines compared to maybe even what California, and I know California's climate has changed over the years, but I think it is a unique region even compared to the Finger Lakes in New York, for at least even
we have several different regions in New York State: Finger Lakes, Hudson Valley. Again, if I made an analogy, we talked about Italy. What Italy has growing in the northern part of Italy versus the southern part are completely different grape varieties. They're all prominent wine regions in Italy, but if we go to New York State, what grows in Finger Lakes is different than what grows here on Long Island. All good, all prominent regions, but all lending themselves to different grape varieties. Certain grape varieties are more desirable or more recognized in the consumer market. Fortunately for us here, we grow a lot of the varieties that people are accustomed to buying. If you go to your local wine shop or your restaurant and you look on the menu, you see certain variety names like Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot. These are popular names. No matter where you are in the world, you're just accustomed to seeing them, so it's easier to sell that product. And we're fortunate here because we can grow most of what people are accustomed to buying.
Yes. And then I think I had two other questions. One is just, what have you enjoyed most about living and working on the North Fork? What do you enjoy?
I like living and working on my property, so I don't have to drive in the traffic.
Right. I love the sense of community. You know, from when the children were in school, I was very involved with, you know, whether it was the PTA or religion, the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. I was just always involved with the kids in the community, and I love that. I love when I go to the supermarket and I know 5 people.
Yeah, that's what
I
was
some people find it a little creepy. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's my home.
And you're right. That sense of community is, I know everyone. You pretty much.
Yeah.
Even with me only being here 2.5 years, I felt like when I go in Greenport or Southold IGA, I see people.
And you run into people you know.
And I don't mind.
No, I love it.
It's nice.
Yeah, I find it comforting. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like our neighbors, we all help each other. Everyone out here is, it's just a good homey feeling out here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think we touched on it a bit, but just looking to the future, what are your hopes for the future of the North Fork and its community down the line? It doesn't have to be specifically about the wine as a wine region. It can be just in general.
I mean, I'm hoping that they preserve more land, you know, keep it under farmland, you know, and then also entice, you know, young families to come out, you know, and maybe plant and grow and live off the land the way we are and raise a family. I mean, that would be beautiful if my children could stay here and afford to stay here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with Lisa on it. And, I mentioned it earlier. If we can embrace preserving land for agriculture and not just open space, that's where I would say I'd like it to go. Just seeing more of it.
Agriculture, aquaculture, all of it.
Yeah.
We're surrounded by it.
Definitely. Because it's like you said, it's kind of the rest of going west of here. It's very different. So,
yeah, one town over, you go into Riverhead and you're already seeing the change when you're into Riverhead Township.
Yeah.
It's like the last piece left on Long Island. You want to really keep it.
Yes.
Because once it's gone, that's it.
It's
no going
delicate.
back.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. But I think it can be done. But we do need local officials to get behind it and understand it. But yeah, so there's a lot to it.
Definitely. And then lastly, I just ask if there was anything else you'd like to touch on or discuss that we haven't talked about.
We touched on a lot of subjects. I don't know.
I know. I feel like we were all over the map.
Yeah. No, but thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely.
This was fun.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and share your story and having this wonderful business out here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come and visit for sure and have some wine with us.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 134 with Lisa and Anthony Sannino. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.